we begin, buy my playmat. Featuring beautiful art by Andrea Garcia, it is me in Guardian of Thraben cosplay with both of my wonderful dogs, Bruce and Bovril, a wizard and a rogue respectively, fighting back the forces of evil net deckers in your local milk aisle. Links in the description below to both foil and non-foil signed ones to allow you to pick up a playmat and support the show. I am on a real Commander kick right now. I built multiple decks. I think I built 5 or 6 decks in the last week, and I'm now looking at building some CDH decks as well, so I can play the full range of power level. I picked up the Precons from Brothers War, so I can build a fully 100% old bordered Garth one-eye deck, the theme being that I can only put old border cards in it, and I'm not allowed to buy any cards specifically for it, so it's just whatever's in my collection, or from those decks specifically. Mainly bought for the mana base, I guess. I'm playing a lot of tap lands until I find some old border pain lands. And then, obviously, the new Commander decks for March and Machines comes with Planechase. So I was like, fuck, I should probably pick those up. I never got hold of the original Planechase cards. I played a load of it back when Planechase first came around, like first came around, because a lot of different people have Planechase decks knocking around when we were between rounds at FNM or after FNM and stuff like that. So I played with other people's Planechase decks. I was also a poor student at the time. I never got around to picking up my own. I own exactly one promo one that's somewhere in a box somewhere from an event around that time. And I never bought a Planeswalker or Planechase anthology. So I've been eyeing up trying to get hold of these Planechase decks. So I really like that as a variant of Command. Yeah, like alongside Command. I don't really want to play Planechase with normal decks. I want to play it with Command. But lo and behold, I don't own the old Planechase decks, and I don't know if I can get them on the cheap. If you know a good source for buying them at a value that is not obscene, like £200 for the anthology just to get the Planechase cards, let me know in the comments below. But being able to get new ones, 10 per Commander deck, for a total of 40, seems pretty decent. At first I thought it was pretty stupid that each of the new Commander decks comes with only 10 Planechase cards, because it feels like it's not really a full Planechase deck at that point. There's not enough variety. People were quick to point out that the whole idea is that you are meant to combine them when you show up. Each player brings 10. Shuffling my 10 with your 10 without sleeves and not knowing who owns what doesn't sound like the kind of thing that I want to do, honestly. So I want to own all of them, so I can bring it. I don't want anyone else to have to bring it. I want to supply that part of the fun if people want to play Planechase at my local store or at my local Commander night. So I'm thinking of buying all of the Precons. And of course, I looked to the prof to see what he thinks, and he told me that realistically he thinks that these are going to be reduced in price and value on shelves in time to come because the reprints inside them aren't very good. There's not really a lot of value in these decks. So I went to double check my working to make sure that I didn't have a different opinion as my right as a content creator. And he's right. These decks do not have a good value proposition in them in terms of what they have reprint wise. The best one seems to be Cavalry Charge, which is the Knights Matters deck, because it has a Hero of Bladehold, a card that is inexplicably, for some bizarre reason, still over $10. Maybe I undervalue the idea of actually going to combat and getting to attack in Commander. It's why I'm not a big fan of the Ancient Dragons either, because I know someone's going to remove my creature. They're never going to let me do it. People really hate me specifically getting to attack to get a trigger, unless it's a game-ending threat. Anyway, so Hero of Bladehold for some reason is quite expensive, and that's probably the best reprint we got. There's a Sun's Champion at just over $5 inside the Jeskai one. And there's a few bits and bobs knocking around that would due a reprint to bring their price down. Curse of Opulence, Skull Clamps. You can never have enough Skull Clamps in circulation to bring that price further down. That sort of thing. But on the whole, they're just not really stocked with good reprints. The mana bases are bad as usual, and that's what I've come to expect in Commander decks. I always bemoan it. I always find it frustrating, but it's happened to me so many times that I just expect it now. But I always expect, I don't know, I guess new cards to be a bit pushed, or there to be some good reprints perhaps. And I'm always a bit let down on the latter. And the former seems a bit poor too. There's the 1 removal spell, the 3 white removal spell. That's probably going to maybe see some play in other formats too. I don't think it quite gets there against Solitude, Plowshares, Path, Skyclave, and maybe even Council Judgment for like a get around hexproof alternative. Maybe you'll see some play in a control deck and Legacy, but this card's pretty decent for Commander at the very least. On the upside, I guess, there's no new super staple like Dockside in these for it to reach the lofty heights of $50, and for people like me to complain that it hasn't got reprinted. That's a good thing in some way. But I want to talk about Dockside, Deflecting SWAT, and the blue one that I never remember the name of in this like trio in my head. I just looked it up. It's Fierce Guardianship. I don't know why this name doesn't go into my head. I think it's because it feels like not a blue card. Fierce Guardianship sounds green to me. I don't know. All 3 of these cards are over $50 in the secondary market right now. All 3 of these cards were introduced via Commander product previously. They were in Commander Precons, with Extortionist being in 2019, and Fist Guardianship and Deflecting Swap being part of the you can play this for free cycle of must-have staple cards printed in Commander 2020. Interestingly, I just looked them up. The green one is around $5, the white one is around $10, and the black one, which I never remember actually existing, is pretty decent, exiling a creature for free, and that is $40 right now. All of these cards were printed into Commander product. They weren't considered too good for it, but they became immediate staples and powerful cards in high-powered and CDH as well. And then they now exist in a space where they aren't getting reprinted into another Commander product. I'm not saying every year should have them, but I think perhaps every few years you could print these into a product that isn't premium priced. That's my issue here, is that the reprints aren't great. The new cards are okay, and that's fine, of course. But then there's cards that could have been reprinted that they've done already before, but they just don't. And the reason they do that is fucking obvious, is because they want to sell it to us in a premium price booster product, because it's a much better way of making us gamble our money. And I want to address two things before we move on to talk about how Commander Horizons, or whatever the fuck it's called, is too expensive. People always say that you can't put expensive cards into the precons because it'll make people buy them up and they'll like rise in price dramatically and they'll never be available for people. But that's only the case when the card being reprinted is a $50 to $80 super staple that'll only get one reprint. If Fierce Guardianship, as an example, was printed into 2 of the precons this year, 2 of the ones that have blue, and then 2 next year, the price of it would drop so dramatically that that wouldn't be the case. It's only when you leave these cards unprinted for years at a time and they become these super staples that are so desirable that they get to this point that people would buy them off shelves, break them up, and basically like ticket tout them on eBay, scalp them on eBay essentially. That wouldn't be the case if these cards didn't get to this stupid kind of price. And it's funny, right, because we live in a world where a million different versions of every card has dragged down the price of the average card, making only the special versions expensive, and ultimately that's kind of where I want to be, even if it does make opening some cards in booster packs rubbish. That's a whole different video, I guess. But so why haven't we got like cheap, affordable versions of this and then premium full art or standard frame nonsense versions as well? That's the ideal. Putting these cards into Commander Masters, which I'm almost certain they will be in there as a cycle, that allows them to get better equity out of their reprints. That's exactly the plan. I get it. It just bugs me. It really fucking bugs me. And maybe it shouldn't bug me. Maybe I should be used to it. Ultimately, this is Commando where the stakes have never been lower, and I don't need these things. Well, if I want to play CDH and win, I do. The reason I started thinking about this is that I need a Deflecting Swap and I need a Fierce Guardianship for some CDH decks. And I guess I'm going to proxy them for now, because I don't want to spend $100 on a new card that's getting reprinted in the next couple of months. Now, I think Wizards need to be really fucking careful about this, because the more they push the price of staples that don't matter for competitive play, the more and more they're going to encourage people to proxy those cards, because it doesn't fucking matter. The stakes have never been lower. So the original question that started this video is not where the fuck are these, that's where I ended up. The original question was, do I buy the new precons? And I'm not sure if I'm going to. I'm interested to see what people in the comment section say whether they bought them. Do you buy all of them? Because there was like fucking 30, wasn't there? Or 20 something last year. So if you're buying every precon, that's a lot of money to spend on a lot of decks that aren't that good. I love precons. A Magic Commander precons, I might hasten to add. Intro decks for Planeswalkers and shit were always bad, right? But I think Commander precons on the whole are wonderful. They often have a theme that they hit quite well. Like the Eggs deck with the Natali, that was fucking sick. And the Morph deck from that same cycle. There are decks every single time round where I'm like, that's a really cool idea. The designers have knocked it out of the park. And I actually quite like the vast majority of mechanically unique cards we see within the Commander product, especially if they get reprinted later in sets that aren't premium priced. Like how Dockside should have been in Commander Legends 2. It fucking makes me laugh that none of this stuff was in Commander Legends 2. And my favourite product of all time is probably going to be the Warhammer decks. I'm never gonna... will Wizards ever produce a deck that gets me that excited again? Maybe if we got Star Wars or DC. I think if we got like a Bat Family deck, and then we got fucking, I don't know... What Star Wars faction do I want to see the most? It probably would have been the Rogues and the Scum and the Villainy, but Boba Fett is kind of boring now. I guess maybe the Mandalorians, but I'm also not super excited about anything outside of Bo-Katan and Mando in the new series. Anyway, that's a topic that you don't want to talk about on the internet because people are fucking awful about it. So what I was saying was I love the precons, and I think they're great products for new players, and I love picking them up myself and then just leaving them up as they are, unmodified to play. I've got quite a few unmodified precons knocking about in those cupboards that I play on occasion with lower power levels. I think it's great. I just wish Wizards would throw us a fucking bone, and opposed to holding on to the expensive reprints for a set that is ludicrously expensive. Like, none of this would bother me if it was going into a Commander set that's coming up that I know isn't going to be astronomically expensive. But when 4 collector boosters is £200, or 24 draft boosters is £300, it's getting obscene. And that price tag isn't inherently new. We've already had this up until now, but it's whenever I'm in my period of really enjoying Magic, and my enthusiasm in Magic waxes and wanes like any other hobby does, in spite of my fact that this is my job, whenever I'm at the height of it, it inflates my feelings of frustration with the worst parts of the hobby or the way the game is handled by the company that makes it. Because from a lofty height, you can see all the pitfalls more, I guess, perhaps. Or I guess when I'm burnt out and frustrated, I'm just burnt out and frustrated and I care less. Who knows? Maybe I care too much. Anyway, just to ramble about how they should be reprinting the Commander-centric card into Commander product that is designed for the average Commander player, not for the fucking whales and the super enfranchised who spend too much. But that's kind of almost a moralistic standpoint. I know I'm rambling to the fucking converted. I know most of you are going to agree with me anyway, apart from the Americans who are going to say capitalism makes them come. I've been Vince, also known as PleasantKenobi on the internet, and in the interest of coming to capitalism, could you please go and buy my playmat that I mentioned at the beginning, because it helps to support the show. And I'd love to see my merch floating around at game stores and events in the future, because it makes my narcissistic e-penis get bigger and bigger. It will throb and it will ejaculate with a force of 1,000 suns. Anyway, where else I'm going, I'm signing off. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Ta-ta for now.